There is an ancient force whispering in your ear. It is the voice that made you click on this video when you should be working. It is the impulse that makes you say exactly the wrong thing at the worst possible moment. It is the energy that drives you to break rules you've never questioned, to challenge authority you've always respected, and to laugh when everything falls apart. This isn't some mystical nonsense. This is one of the most powerful psychological forces in human existence, and it has been shaping civilizations, destroying empires, and transforming lives for thousands of years. The ancient cultures knew about it. Modern psychology has studied it, yet somehow we've forgotten its name. Here is the devastating truth that will shatter everything you think you know about human behavior. The chaos in your life isn't random. It is being orchestrated by an archetypal force that is older than civilization itself, and it is trying to save you from the prison of your own mind. Picture this: you are in the most important meeting of your career. Everything depends on making the right impression. You've rehearsed your presentation 100 times, but just as you stand up to speak, you knock over your coffee, stumble over your words, and somehow manage to call your boss by your ex's name. Sound familiar? What you experienced wasn't clumsiness. It wasn't nervousness. It was the trickster, an ancient psychological archetype that lives in the depths of your unconscious mind, and it was trying to tell you something crucial about who you really are beneath all that professional pretense. The trickster is the part of your psyche that refuses to be tamed, categorized, or controlled. It is the force that makes you act out when you are being too perfect, that creates accidents when you are being too rigid, and that forces uncomfortable truths to surface when you are living a lie. But here is where it gets terrifying. Most people live their entire lives as prisoners of their own personas, never realizing that the very force they're fighting against is actually trying to set them free. Think about the last time you did something completely out of character. Maybe you sent a text to the wrong person that accidentally revealed your true feelings. Maybe you had a slip of the tongue that exposed what you really thought about someone. Maybe you made a stupid decision that turned out to be exactly what you needed. We call these moments embarrassing. Freudian slips, accidents. But what if I told you these weren't mistakes at all? The trickster operates like a master hacker, infiltrating the systems of your carefully constructed identity. When you are being too rigid, too perfect, too controlled, it creates chaos to break you free. When you are living behind a mask, it orchestrates situations that force your authentic self to emerge. Here is the shocking reality. Every time you've been tricked by life, you are actually being guided toward your true self. The ancient Greeks understood this. They had Hermes, the messenger god, who could travel between all worlds, the conscious, the unconscious, and everything in between. Native American cultures had Coyote, the sacred fool who taught through mischief. African traditions gave us Anansi, the spider who spun wisdom through trickery. These weren't just stories. They were instruction manuals for understanding one of the most fundamental aspects of human psychology. Here is what is really happening in your psyche right now. You've built an identity, your professional self, your social self, your good person self. This identity is like a well-rehearsed performance, complete with scripts, costumes, and stage directions. You've practiced it so long you think it is who you really are. But buried beneath this performance lies your shadow, all the parts of yourself you've rejected, repressed, or forgotten. The anger you are not supposed to feel, the desires you are not supposed to have, the truth you are not supposed to speak. The trickster serves as the director of this shadow puppet show. It creates scenarios where your hidden aspects must emerge. It orchestrates accidents that reveal your true nature. It uses humor, chaos, and disruption to show you the parts of yourself you've been hiding from. But here is the twist that changes everything. The trickster isn't trying to destroy you, it is trying to make you whole. Every culture that has ever existed has recognized this force, because it is hardwired into human consciousness. It is what Carl Jung called an archetype, a universal pattern that exists in every human mind, regardless of culture, education, or background. Stop. Look at your life right now. Really look at it. How much of what you do every day is performance? How much of what you say is scripted by social expectations? How much of your identity is built on what others think you should be, rather than who you actually are? The trickster sees this performance and starts laughing. Not at you, but at the absurdity of the situation. Here you are, a being capable of incredible creativity, authenticity, and joy, and you are spending your life trying to be a perfect imitation of someone else's expectations. So it starts playing tricks. It makes you forget your lines. It reveals your true feelings at inappropriate moments. It creates situations where your mask slips and your authentic self shines through. Here is the profound truth that will change how you see every embarrassing moment in your life. The trickster's greatest joke isn't the chaos it creates. It is that most people spend their entire lives fighting against the very force that is trying to liberate them. Have you ever noticed that the best comedians are often the most troubled people? That the funniest moments in life often come from the darkest places? That laughter has the power to break through walls that logic can't even touch? This isn't coincidence, it is the trickster at work. Laughter is a sacred act because it bridges the gap between the acceptable and the unacceptable, the conscious and the unconscious, the light and the shadow. When we laugh, we're acknowledging truths that our rational minds refuse to accept. Think about the last time you laughed so hard you cried. What were you really laughing at? Chances are, it was something that revealed an uncomfortable truth about human nature, something that exposed the gap between who we pretend to be and who we really are. The trickster uses humor as a delivery system for wisdom that would otherwise be too threatening to accept. It makes us laugh at our own pretensions, our inflated egos, our desperate attempts to appear perfect and in control. The devastating reality is this: in a world that demands constant performance and perfect behavior, laughter becomes an act of rebellion, and the class clown becomes a prophet. Here is what happens when you spend your life trying to eliminate chaos, control every outcome, and maintain perfect composure. The trickster goes underground. It becomes unconscious. And when archetypal forces operate unconsciously, they don't disappear, they become compulsive and destructive. You might become the person who appears perfect on the outside, but has secret addictions. The one who seems to have it all together, but periodically self-destructs in spectacular ways. The one who builds elaborate facades only to watch them crumble at the worst possible moments. Or worse, you might project your inner trickster onto others. You might become the person who is constantly being tricked by con artists, manipulators, and false promises. You might find yourself repeatedly falling for the same deceptions because you've lost touch with your own capacity for trickery and discernment. Here is the terrifying truth. When you refuse to acknowledge the trickster within yourself, you become its victim instead of its ally. The most dangerous people in the world aren't the ones who embrace their shadow, they're the ones who deny it exists. They're the ones who present themselves as pure, perfect, and beyond reproach while their unconscious trickster wreaks havoc behind the scenes. But what if you could flip the script? What if instead of fighting against this ancient force, you could learn to work with it? Here's the first step. Stop trying to be perfect and start trying to be real. The trickster only creates chaos when you are living a lie. When you are authentic, when you are integrated, when you acknowledge both your light and your shadow, the trickster becomes your ally. It helps you navigate between different worlds. It gives you the flexibility to adapt to any situation. It allows you to find humor and wisdom in the darkest moments. The second step, embrace strategic authenticity. This doesn't mean you should say whatever comes to mind or act on every impulse. It means you should consciously choose when to be vulnerable, when to break the rules, when to speak uncomfortable truths. Instead of being at the mercy of unconscious eruptions, you become the conscious director of your own authenticity. The third step, develop your sense of humor about yourself. The fastest way to deflate an inflated ego is to laugh at it. The most effective way to deal with embarrassment is to find the humor in it. The quickest path to psychological health is to stop taking yourself so seriously. When you can laugh at your own pretensions, your own mistakes, your own humanity, you rob the unconscious trickster of its power over you. You become the one telling the jokes instead of being the punchline. Here is where the real magic happens. When you fully integrate your inner trickster, you don't just become psychologically healthier, you become psychologically powerful. You develop what psychologists call psychological flexibility, the ability to adapt your behavior to any situation while maintaining your core authenticity. You become someone who can navigate social situations with ease, who can diffuse tension with humor, who can speak truth in ways that people can actually hear. You become a bridge between worlds, the conscious and unconscious, the acceptable and taboo, the sacred and profane. You become someone who can help others integrate their own shadows, who can use humor to heal, who can create transformation through play. This is the ultimate joke the trickster has been trying to teach you. The very thing you thought was your biggest weakness was actually your greatest strength, waiting to be claimed. Look at the ways chaos manifests in your life. Look at your patterns of self-sabotage, your recurring accidents, your persistent blind spots. These aren't random, they're messages. If you constantly forget important deadlines, maybe you are rebelling against a life that doesn't match your values. If you keep saying the wrong thing at the wrong time, maybe you are fighting against a persona that isn't authentic to who you are. If you find yourself attracted to people who are bad for you, maybe you are trying to integrate disowned aspects of your own personality. The trickster is holding up a mirror showing you everything you've tried to hide from yourself. The question is, are you brave enough to look? Here is what life looks like when you stop fighting your inner trickster and start dancing with it. You become unpredictable in the best possible way. You are able to be professional when needed, but authentic when called for. You can follow rules when they serve you and break them when they don't. You become someone who can hold paradox, who can find wisdom in folly, who can transform pain into humor and humor into healing. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become an active participant in the great cosmic joke of existence. You realize that life is both deeply meaningful and utterly absurd, and that this paradox is what makes it beautiful. Most importantly, you become free. Free from the prison of perfectionism, free from the exhaustion of constant performance, free from the fear of making mistakes, because you understand that mistakes are just misdirected wisdom trying to find its way home. The final revelation is this: the trickster hasn't been trying to destroy your life. It has been trying to give you a life worth living. Right now, you have a choice. You can close this video and go back to your carefully scripted life, pretending that chaos is the enemy and control is the goal. You can keep fighting against the very force that is trying to liberate you, or you can recognize that you've just been initiated into one of humanity's oldest mysteries. You can understand that the trickster living in your unconscious isn't a bug in the system. It is a feature. It is the part of you that refuses to be domesticated, that insists on authenticity, that will use any means necessary to crack open the shell of your false self and reveal the magnificent, messy, utterly human truth beneath. The ancient shamans knew this. The medieval jesters understood it. The greatest comedians embody it. And now you know it too. The question isn't whether you have a trickster, you do. The question is whether you are going to remain its unconscious victim or become its conscious collaborator in the grand project of becoming who you really are. Here is your initiation challenge for the next week. Pay attention to your mistakes. Notice when you say the wrong thing, when you act out of character, when chaos erupts in your carefully ordered world. Instead of being embarrassed, get curious. What is your inner trickster trying to tell you? What aspect of your authentic self is fighting to emerge? Welcome to the dance. Welcome to the joke. Welcome to the ancient art of becoming gloriously, authentically, uncontrollably yourself. The trickster has been waiting your whole life for you to finally get the punchline. The punchline is this: you were never supposed to be perfect. You were supposed to be real, and the chaos, the mistakes, the beautiful disasters of your life haven't been signs that you are doing it wrong. They've been signs that you are finally doing it right. Stop fighting the force that is trying to free you. Start laughing at the cosmic joke you've been living inside. And remember, in a world full of actors reading scripts, the one who improvises becomes the star of their own life. The trickster has spoken. The question is, are you ready to listen?